Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Bob Chitrathorn, who's the co-founder of Simplified Wealth Management. Bob, welcome to the program.
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me.
You are welcome. I'm excited to talk with you because I know that you have a wonderful story, and I always love hearing how people got into the field that they're in, and especially someone like yourself that's an entrepreneur. So give us a little bit of your background and what your entrepreneurial journey has been like to this point in your career.
Okay, a little background. I'm first generation born here in the U.S. My parents, my mom and dad, and every generation before, pretty much born and raised in Thailand. My mom went to nursing school, and she just wanted to try to give me a better life, I guess. So she did the American dream journey, if you will, that we always hear about. So her and my dad kind of left Thailand. Some ties were kept, some ties got cut just because of interfamily, situations, and you know how that goes.
Sure.
When people leave a country, sometimes it's difficult, but either which way they came here. I was born out here, and grew up here, and that's kind of how the journey started, right? It was weird because I didn't know it was when I was young, but obviously my parents' grammar, it was kind of hard to have conversations at first, right? And since they just came here, which makes sense. And then growing up, they kind of put me through school. They actually worked really hard to put me through private school because, again, being new to the U.S., they didn't know much of, hey, what's the best way to go, this and that. So they just did the best they could with the information they had.
Sure.
And, I would say that one of the things that really stuck to me was, the hard work and dedication that my parents had in working day to day. And then, some of the obstacles I had just because of language barriers. And then, my mom being a nurse and having a little bit of a language barrier. And, and we're talking, this was back in, the late 70s even. So things were a little bit different. So I understand the persistence that they had and diversity and adversity they had to overcome. And then, once I was old enough to kind of realize what was going on, I was really appreciative of that at a very young age. We grew up in the mobile home park, which has very, different of opinions from many different people when you think of that. And, some of it's true and whatnot, but, that's just how it was for me. And so what I learned at a young age was to work hard, right, and to be persistent. So that stuck with me. And then what also stuck with me was, one thing my mom always said is education is money in the bank.
Yep.
Right. No one can rob your bank of your education. So that stuck with me. So, I was always studying hard and working hard towards everything I did. And I think the trigger that made me kind of eventually gear my entrepreneurial future and my career path was, we didn't have a lot of money, obviously, back then. And going to private school was very expensive for my parents. And so we had to be, frugal in what we ate. I remember going to friends' houses and having cheese sandwiches. And I thought that was amazing. Right. And so we had to be frugal and whatnot. And one of the things that caught my attention at a young age is I was playing with this glass. It was probably a $3 glass vase, right? That we had little, like jelly bean type candies in.
Sure. And
back in that day, paint the picture, you had this old school wooden looking table that's like kind of oval, and it's not real wood. It's not real wood. But it's like a wood color. And then the legs had those like metal legs that kind of carve out, right? They kind of bend outwards as opposed to straight down. And so I was playing with this glass jar back and forth from left hand to right hand, and I just missed it. And it fell off the table. Normally would hit carpet, no big deal, but it hit one of the metal legs and they shattered. And I just remember feeling so terrible about that happening because I was like, oh my goodness, is this going to cause an argument between my parents? They're going to argue about money or, whatever it is, or may not be. But that's one thing I was always worried about is just, I didn't want my parents to ever argue over me or about me, let alone about, anything I did when it came to money. Cause I knew at that point that we just weren't rich. Right.
Sure.
So like we had to be careful. It wasn't easy to break something and, hey, let's just go buy a new one. Right.
You really appreciated what you had.
Yeah, I did. I really appreciated it. And then I just felt bad that, hey, you know what? I hope this is not starting an argument. And come to find out, I think that's what shaped my career and my entrepreneurial, future, in the sense that, hey, you know what? I need to figure something out. And again, I wouldn't have realized this till years down the road, but it was that moment that was stuck inside of my body that later will let me figure out, hey, I am going to do stuff where I can help people so that they have one less thing to worry about. And that's
Nice.
money or the financial future or things of that nature. So that was kind of my, I guess it's what, when they always talk about what's your why.
Yeah.
That was my why without me knowing it at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, and it's really interesting how you can look back, and I think it's a really powerful exercise that we should all look back in our life and do that life planning blueprint and see where some of those crossroads were that led you to the next step in your life. So when you decided to get into the financial services world to help other people avoid that kind of feeling that you grew up with, what was that first step? Did you get the education, like you said, that you were conditioned to get, and then move into corporate America before branching out on your own?
Okay, yeah. So, obviously that was at a younger age. So fast forward a little bit, that whole attitude kind of stuck with me. Like I said, I went to private school. I went to, in high school, actually, private school, you had to buy your school books. So
Sure.
I would actually take all my classmates' school books and said, hey, give me your school books and I will give you more money than the bookstore will. You just have to trust me and let me sell the books first. Because again, I didn't have money to front this, right?
Yeah.
By any means. And so people did that. And I did this for 4 years. Me and my buddy would always go on 4 days of summer, go to freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior orientation days, and pretty much bring all the books that we had. And, parents would walk by and kind of roll their eyes at us, if you will, right? But after they went to the bookstore and came back, they're like, hey, do you have this book?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. And we sold it for less, right? We literally sold it for like $10 to $15 less. And we did that every year. And that was how I kind of raised money for myself, if you will, during school. And obviously I paid a lot of attention to school and wanted to really make sure I got a good education. I remember almost getting kicked out of school a few times, mainly for the way I dressed. But I remember always saying, hey, don't make me call Jenny Jones. And this was a joke, right, with the principal, but somewhat true. Hey, don't make me call Jenny Jones, because what's it going to look like when a private school kicks out a 4.0 student?
Yeah.
Right. For the way he, dresses or whatnot. And so that fast forward, now we're in college and everything just kind of stood fast. Like it was all about hard work, trying to be smart with money and trying to help as many people as I can. So once I graduated college, right, fast forward, now I've graduated college, I kind of already knew what I was going to do. It was going to be finance or real estate. I got my BS in finance and my BS in real estate as well while graduating as a Golden Key Honor Society member. And I couldn't do both because I felt like it didn't feel right inside if I did both. It felt like, there might be some weird of double dipping or just some sort of, the vibe just didn't feel right to do both.
Sure.
Right. I had to pick once. So I chose finance. And I love it to this day, and I plan on loving it forever. I just love helping people. It's a great feeling.
So did you ever do anything with the real estate side of things, or did you just let that go?
Well, I got my, I did all the classes I needed to do, and, can easily go and just get my license and do real estate. But I haven't done anything with it. And the main reason is because I always try to be as open and as transparent as possible with all my clients or even prospects that are going to become my clients. And the one thing I never wanted to do was, like, I always felt it would be bad if, it's like, hey, I handle your finances, So let's do this. And hey, by the way, let me help you sell your house and buy your house, and then get commission off of that. It just didn't feel right to me.
Sure.
Right. And then not to mention, how can I be a great financial advisor if I'm out there trying to be a great real estate agent?
Yes.
It just didn't make sense. So,
but having that real estate background gave you a really good foundation on how to advise them financially, because a home is a big piece of their financial puzzle. So that was a great foundation to have.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I mean, some of the things I tell people about when it comes to that foundation is just, there's more than meets the eye when you're wanting to plan to buy a house, right? You don't just wait and wake up. If you do that, your options are limited. But if you actually kind of plan for it, 3 to 5 years down the road, which most people don't think about, it's going to make a huge difference. It's going to allow for more options. It's going to allow for more happiness, because you're not going to feel rushed. You're going to have a different vibe. You're going to have a different feeling, because again, when it comes to school or finances or life, you want to find that balance. And if someone can help coach or teach you, hey, you're not going to know this for another 10 years, so I'm going to teach you now so that you don't have to go through it like I did, or someone else did. I think that's just great. If we make the world better 1% at a time, it's going to make the world a better place. And I truly believe in trying to make it, as cliche as it sounds, in making the world a better place, so that everyone can be happy and enjoy life and not have some of the worries that we do have, because there's already so many worries we have to begin with.
100%. So let's talk about your business. When you launched into your business, your entrepreneurial journey there, share a few of the things that might have been challenges that you had to overcome in launching your business and growing your business, because we all have seen that funny picture online where people's impression of becoming an entrepreneur is this nice, smooth, steady line straight up to success. But in reality, it's a big squiggle line, start, stop, backwards. And so it's a struggle. So what were some of the struggles that you dealt with and had to overcome?
Okay, yeah. I mean, literally, it is not a straight, smooth line. We all know that it's literally a roller coaster. If they actually made a real roller coaster of the line of an entrepreneur, I don't know if that would ever pass, because it would be a very scary roller coaster that may not get approved for people to ride on, right? But yeah, so one of the first things was when I started, I had to find a company to kind of work under, right? You can't just go start building a house. You have to have your contractor's license and this and that. So kind of same tone here. And where I started out in San Diego. I had actually moved out after graduating. Literally, we were in the line of graduation, and I was asking my buddies, hey, we're in San Diego, or are you guys going to live? Right? There's like 4 or 5 of us that all said that we're going to move to San Diego, right after we graduate. Come to find out that, they were all just talk. No one moved to San Diego. So I was like, well, I guess I'm going. And of course they were there every weekend hanging out because it's fun, right?
Yes.
But, lived with my younger sister who was still in college, going to school in San Diego. And if anybody knows San Diego, there's quite a nightlife there. So when I was working there my first year, everybody I knew was pretty much an hour and a half to 2 hours away. So that was a huge struggle, because I'm here trying to, start my practice and, help people with finances and insurances and whatnot. But, I'm just out of college. So that's a hard thing.
Sure.
No experience really besides that education. But people are not going to look at you like, oh yeah, I want you to help me with my finances. 1, you just graduated college. 2, I don't know anyone who knows you in this area, right? Because I was 2 hours away from my area. But I met that challenge head on, and I dealt with it for a year. And literally, I am so glad that I saved money prior to moving out, because my income that year was very minimal, right? Very, very minimal, because it was a struggle. I would have been out of the industry that year had I not saved up. Again, I can't say that for sure, because I'm sure I would have persisted and found a way. But anyway, so I decided, hey, what I need to do is I'm starting to realize what that struggle is. And that's just the fact that Nobody knows who I am. I'm straight out of college. And so, hey, who wants to give you $500,000 to deal with when you're straight out of college and no one's really heard of you, right?
Sure.
So I moved back closer to home and decided, hey, you know what? I know everything that needs to be done. I mean, not just because I did the courses that were needed to get my licenses for my, to do this, but I literally had in-depth college education specifically for this. And I knew that most people don't. I knew that most people that were doing what I was doing did not specifically have a college career and spend many, many years learning all the things I did. And I knew I had that. Again, going back to my mom saying education is, money in the bank that no one can take from you. And I knew that. That stuck with me. So I decided, hey, you know what? Let's move back closer to home. And I just started talking to everybody I knew that was my age. So we're talking young kids who are, doing jobs that aren't their careers at that point in time still, right? So I'm talking to these people and getting people started up on finances and essentially becoming, having them become clients of mine. And that was a good foundation of kind of building my character, because most people that start in the industry and do what I do don't do it that way. They have coaches and mentors that they follow, and they buy leads or they do this. It's not. You won't find many people that build their practice the way I did, but I was very passionate about helping people.
And you noticed,
I wasn't just going after people.
Yeah, you noticed that your target audience was not resonating with your persona, your brand, your personal brand. So you made a pivot. You didn't quit. You just pivoted and said, okay, well, then I'm going to go closer to home where people know me. I'm going to build my network. I'm going to refocus my personal brand on something that I can hang my hat on, a college degree, training, rather than just a certification. So I think that speaks to that persistence and hard work and noticing where things are working or not working. That's a really big character trait.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah. And so that's exactly what happened. And so, college kids, people are just graduating from college, how much money do they really have? Right. That's not going to be any type of advisor's target market at all. But that's just how it was for me at that point in time. So I did that. I helped as many people as I can. And then eventually, as me doing that, the brand of myself and who I was, and that I was helping younger people that will get overlooked, kind of gave me a new in, if you will, because I was helping lots of people. And guess what? All these people have parents.
Yeah.
Right. So then eventually that's just kind of, it went that way, and my practice could have grown a lot quicker, and which is what most people want. It could have grown a lot quicker if I would have changed my focus. But I was having so much fun helping people, knowing that I was going to set these people up for years to come. It really gave me a lot more passion and reason, if you will. So I kept on working with the clientele at that point in time, where most people would have jumped and gone up the next tier. I didn't just go to the next tier. I kept working with the people I was already working with, because those are the ones that I know that 10, 15 years down the road, 20 years down the road, they're going to be so appreciative, right? And that's a true fact now, because I've been doing this for 18 years.
Wow.
And I have clients that started with me 18 years ago, and we have conversations about it. And it's like, man, I'm glad you started having me save, X amount of dollars, which was barely anything. But if I didn't do that, I would not have had my down payment for a house.
That's wise financial advice. That's helping them avoid mistakes, and they got a raise or two along the way, didn't they? So then they became, more of a good, solid client. You just put in the hard work ahead of time and played the long game, and that really is different than most people in financial services.
Yeah, I definitely played the long game, because I knew what I did was something I was going to do forever. I love what I do. It's so cliche to say I'm passionate, or people are passionate about what they do, but I really am. I love helping people. To this day, I will spend 30, 40 minutes on the phone with someone who's just starting out that I know won't become a client of mine, but that's okay because I'm going to set them in the right direction. And I've actually had people call me from 2 years ago that we just had a conversation, never became a client of mine, never worked with me, but they'll call me, say, hey, I did the steps that you advised me to do. I think I'm ready for the next steps now.
Wow.
So we talk. Yeah. And I love that feeling because it's, again, going back, hey, everybody you meet, you need to try to do something that will make them better. And if you can make them better somehow, whatever thing they learn or don't learn from you, as long as they can get something out of you that's valuable, well, that's going to be valuable for someone else that they, know as well.
Yeah,
whatever
the ripple
is,
effect.
Right? Just kind of, the ripple effect, the whole pay it forward thing, if you will. And I'm passionate about that. And so, yeah, I played the long game because I knew I was going to do it for a very long time. So it was literally, hey, I tell people, hey, yeah, you're saving a few bucks now and then, but hey, in 15 years, you're going to be doing something different. And I know you're smart. You're going to have a lot more money and you're not going to leave me, are you? They're like, no, of course not.
Nice.
So, I knew I was going to be there for the long game. And by knowing that, it built a really good foundation of my personality, and it really built a deeper passion. Because I think some people who make it as entrepreneurs, as advisors, they get into, a high net worth quickly, and then they just keep using it. And that's fun and exciting and it's great. You're helping them. But sometimes I feel like you might get jaded by the dollars.
Sure.
So I really love the fact that I worked from, lack of a better word, the ground up, if you will, because I see all different types of angles. And so when I see someone who has lots of money, it's like one of the first things I tell them is, hey, tell me what you want. Let me tell you what I think you need. And let's go over the pros and cons, because the last thing I want to do is get you into something that you don't need. The last thing I want to do is sell you on something. So let's talk about concepts. Let's talk about the big picture. And, I honestly, flash back on this sometimes and say, hey, you know what, if I would have got into the more success earlier on in my career, I don't know if I would be as good of a financial advisor as I am now, and literally doing the best I can for everybody I meet. Something may have jaded me along the way. You don't know what you don't know, right?
Yep.
But
the relationship
I
might not have been
agree.
as in depth. You might have had surface relationships, and through your depiction there, Bob, of some of the timeline and challenges, it makes me think of a couple things. So I want to get your thoughts on this. You had to have confidence that when you made that pivot of a little bit of moving away and getting back toward, your hometown where people knew you and expanding that network, you had to have the confidence that that was the right thing. And also you had to have faith that you were doing the right thing. So talk a little bit about how confidence and faith played into that to keep you dialed into your plan.
Oh man, huge portion, because the confidence was the fact that, hey, I knew this is something I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I love what I do. And part of the faith also intertwined with it was like, well, if I love what I do and it's good for people and I'm helping people, why would this not be a good thing for me to pursue? Right. And I grew up, as a Christian, and, private school was an SDA school, Seventh-day Adventist, and then Christian school. And then I went to my first year in college was, a Christian college for year number one as well. And so, I always asked for guidance. I said, I need to believe in this. Please guide me. Give me the right, mentality to do what I need to do. And, if there wasn't faith and there wasn't confidence, I'm pretty sure
you would have lost
failed a long time ago.
Yeah, you would have lost your way quickly because, you would have tried the next best thing and had that shiny object syndrome kicking in.
Yep. Or maybe I would do the same thing that I'm doing now, but not in the right way.
Yes,
right.
For the right reasons.
Not in the way. Exactly. Not doing it for the right reasons, not doing it the right way, and not helping people as much as I possibly could. Right. And that would be completely worse. Like, being successful, but doing things the wrong way or not feeling good about yourself. I can't imagine that. I don't want to ever imagine that, but it's hard for me to imagine that because it feels like it would be an internal struggle for me. personally, right? Maybe some people can do it. I can't. And so that's why I'm so happy and so grateful for the faith that I had, the confidence that the faith gave me, and just, everything I was able to learn along the way. And that's what makes me passionate and, teach people as much as I can. Say, hey, you know what? This is what I was doing. And then this little change, and then this happened. So can I say that little change made, the next good step happen? I can't say that for sure, but I will tell you, this is the only change I did that made that happen.
Yep.
Right. I talk to my friends about writing down goals. It's like, hey, here's where I was at many years, doing great, helping people. But I just started writing some of my own personal goals. And then all of a sudden, within a year, things changed. I didn't really try to change anything. All I did was write down those goals.
And so, that allowed your focus to change. So now you've got written goals. It's in the forefront of your mind. The reticular activator part of our mind then starts kicking in, going, okay, how do I achieve this? So Bob, here's something that I want to kind of transition to, because everything you're saying here is just so spectacular, that your hard work in getting the education and persistence to overcome and the passion that you have for serving your clients really lends itself to what you're doing with them. And so what I would ask is, how do you now work with your clients because I can tell you educate them and teach. You don't sell and push, you teach. But what is a typical client needing from you, and how are you serving their needs from the financial standpoint in helping them to prepare for retirement?
Great question, Mike. Well, when it comes to, how I help my typical clients nowadays, again, we have to remember I don't really have typical clients, because I work within 3 generations a lot of times, right? Where I'll have 3 different generations as clients, and everything is confidential. So literally, they won't know they're clients of mine until I show up to a party I'm invited to that they're all at, right? And then I'll say, hey, look, here's Bob, my advisor. And they're like, oh, wait, what?
Well, he's my advisor too.
It's kind of funny every time that happens. Yeah, no, so it's hilarious when that happens. It's a good time. So, again, I don't have typical clients per se, because again, we're working with people with 65 to 75 to 80, and then people 40s to 55, right? And then I have their kids.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say what I have is typical families.
Yeah.
Right. Typical families, not really a typical client. And I would say when it comes to my typical families that I work with, right, someone in that family is either going to be a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse, a healthcare professional worker, or a business owner, or someone in this, the industry, such as being a police officer or a firefighter. That just tends to be the core of the type of families I work with.
Yeah.
And so when working with a family, all families, I believe, need pretty much the same core things. But what I do with the family is I talk to them about, hey, let's not just talk about saving for your future in retirement, but let's also take a look at, anything else that has to do with money, your expenses, your livelihood. I help people when they go and buy houses. I help them with, hey, talk to my loan guy. He's probably a lot cheaper than the person you have just because of the network I have, right? So there's lots of different things that aren't exactly tangible, right? Most people think, hey, money make money. That's what's good. Well, no, there's also ways to save money on things, right? I teach people so much as to, hey, call your cable company once every 3 months and ask if they have any promotions, so you don't have to pay as much, right?
Wow.
And I do that, and I save about $100 a month, every month. And every 12 months I got a call again. But hey, you know what? A 30-minute call to save $1,200 a year.
I'll do that.
I do not feel like I am too good for that. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it all day long. Right.
And how much of that does Bob Chitrathorn get? Zero. But that is the value add that you bring to your client. And it's like the old proverbial bucket with holes in it. You can't plug up all the holes because you're going to have to spend money and pay taxes and things like that. But if you can mitigate or lower or plug up those holes as much as possible through some of the things you're mentioning, and, hey, retirement's going to happen. And people these days are taking better care of themselves. And retirement actually is elongating because people are in better health. And you actually want to do more in retirement. So you become a life life coach in reality, because you've already said throughout this conversation, you ask people, what do you want? What do you foresee? And then you have to back into their dreams and goals to say, okay, well, if that's the case, we need to make some financial moves. Here's some things to consider.
Exactly. Big picture, that's what I do. I mean, again, if you really want to get into the core of what I think I do for a living, okay, I'm not going to say I think I'm a financial advisor. I am not going to say I think I help people with money. I'm not going to say I think I help people protect their family's lives with any type of insurance they might need. To me, I think I change people's lives.
Wow.
Because I am so confident in the fact that if someone talks to me, whether they work with me or not, if someone talks to me and we just talk about something that has to do with what I can help them with, they're going to get value out of me somehow. Whether I get anything back for them, I do not care. My goal is, I tell people this when I talk to people, I said, hey, you referred to me or blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to waste your time. Here's a couple things I don't think you have that I can give you as a resource that's going to change your life. I love doing that because this, to me, is we never talk again. I know I gave you something that is going to be valuable to you. And that is what I am passionate about.
And if you could do that every single day and make small deposits in other people's lives, personally, professionally, financially, spiritually, personality-wise, Bob's, checking his boxes, and then they are seeing you as completely different than other people in the financial services world, because people are going, give me your money and let's put it in this. And Bob's going, hold up, that's way down the road. We got to figure things out first. We got to understand what you want and educate you and teach you. That might come down the road, but boy, you do things so much differently. And I love how you are pouring into your clients and pouring into the people you talk to even before they become clients. And another huge thing I'm observing is multi-generational. How many people take the time to build from the younger generation up to parents and grandparents and older generation, grandparents down, to have clients and families that have multi-generations that you're working with. That is something that, cannot probably be taught because it is the long game. And I think that is just unbelievably spectacular. And Bob, I think at this point, what I'd love to just say is if someone is listening to this going, I want a little bit of what Bob's got, and I want to get some of that information and get to know him on that relational level. What's a final thought, and how can people reach out and connect with you?
Okay, perfect. Well, real quick, I want to tell you, Mike, that one of the best things ever is when you think about other people, you need to bring it into your own life. And so I always think about, hey, if I was going to do something what would I do to improve my mom and dad's life? If someone's older than me, what would I do for my mom and dad? If someone's around my age, what would I do for me or my best friends? If someone's younger, what would I do for my sister? And if someone's even younger, what would I do for my nephews? Right? So I always try to keep that in my mind at all times, because I feel like that's going to be your guidance to keep you on the path to doing the right things all the time. Right? If you kind of keep that focus. And now if people want to get in contact with me, my website is very, very complicated. It's probably one of the most complicated websites I've ever seen. It's www.planwithbob.com.
I love it. That's not complicated. That's easy, which ties into the name of your company, Simplified Wealth. That's the way that you do things, is you keep it simple. And so planwithbob.com. And I just really appreciate you coming on today, Bob. It's been a real pleasure talking with you. And it's been encouraging just to see that there's people out there still doing it the right way. And I just really appreciate your contribution.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much for having me on. I greatly appreciate it.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.